happen. We're going to bring on now Andy Teitelman. Andy, are you with us?
I'm here, Gary. Good to be with you.
Oh, it's great to have you on. And I know you're an old hand at being on the radio. You and Stan did Don't Back Down on this channel for a long, long time. So welcome back to WWDB.
It's a pleasure, and I do look forward to joining Sheriff Bunny, who's a dear friend and, thank God, former client at this point, to talk about Arctic frost.
You never know it. It's always good. I never leave home without my lawyer.
So I don't want to make the assumption that people know what Arctic frost means, even though some of us have been following it pretty closely. Tell us, what exactly is this? What was Arctic frost?
Well, Arctic frost, and then Andy, I'll turn it over to you, is really a revelation of what has been happening for years, which has been targeting and an investigation of not only everybody from Donald Trump and everyone who surrounds him, the Congress, the Senate, and down to even citizens like me. Now, for me, it wasn't a surprise because I've been targeted for years, but the revelation of the depth and the breadth and the width to which they have gone in spying, in subpoenas, in bank accounts, all the kind of thing they have done to target individuals has just begun to have been revealed. Andy, you want to embellish on that?
Yeah, and I want to address the name Arctic frost because it has a special meaning to me, but I think they misnamed it. It should have been called Show Me the Man and I'll Find You the Crime. Operation Show Me the Man and I'll Find You the Crime, which is a quote that Lavrentiy Beria, the chief of the Soviet secret police under Stalin, coined, because that's exactly what Arctic frost did. But I think the name was appropriate in another way because it did chill First Amendment and freedom in general in America. And it's not just happening under the Biden administration. We've been on a slippery slope under the control of Democrats and Republicans. You can't blame a party. Both parties have allowed this to happen. And, we have to look back to the year 2001 when, thanks to George Bush II, we were given the Patriot Act, which had nothing to do with patriotism and everything to do with losing our privacy and freedom in the name of safety, and that never works. Arctic frost was much more far-ranging than people know commonly because the media, including the alt media, did not cover it very well, especially the part about the, quote, fake electors, of which, Bunny, you were allegedly one in Pennsylvania.
Correct.
Arctic frost, I sent Gary, I sent you a copy of the authorizing memorandum, which is dated April 4th, 2022. And this was from the Deputy Attorney General to Christopher Wray was part of it, and it was signed off by then AG Merrick Garland. And when you read it, it's kind of in that banal-sounding government speak, but they're essentially authorizing a far-reaching sweep into, in this case, it's Democrats attacking Republicans, Republican politics, starting from the top down, and in 7 different states that put up alternate slates of electors, including Pennsylvania. There are still multiple charges pending in other states, and I'll explain why it didn't happen in Pennsylvania in a minute, against the people who propose themselves as alternate electors, even though it is impossible for a fraud to have occurred or even been attempted, because so long as the Republican candidate was not certified as the winner, the alternate slates of electors could not be seated, and then their votes would not count. So this is absurdity on its face. So Arctic frost was to chill anybody who would contest the selection of Biden in 2020. That's what it was. And I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, Gary, but I wanted to get it out there.
So, Bunny, how did you get swept up in this?
Oh, they've been after me for years. Just to go over, and I'm glad Andy's on the phone. I was a delegate in 2016 in Cleveland for Trump. I was also an elector. And that year, the electors received, I cannot tell you, threats, death threats, tons of mail. The mail carrier used to come with those big white buckets every day to my home. Anyone who was an elector trying to threaten us. That was 2016. I was chair of Chester County. I was on the National Advisory Board, Women for Trump. I was co-chair of America's Sheriffs for Trump, so I was pretty visible. After the inauguration, one of the first law enforcement meetings at the White House, I was there, and I was seated next to Trump. Once again, that got a lot of national news, and I'll tell you, it drove the locals crazy. They insisted that maybe I had elbowed my way in to sit next to the president. Well, if you've ever been at a meeting in Washington, whether it's the Cabinet Room or the Roosevelt Room or the East Room, when you walk into the room, your name placard is there. They tell you where to sit. He liked me sitting next to him. We had a good relationship through the campaign, and I took a lot of heat because I was always seated next to him, but that was it, on his right or on his left. In 2018, Chester County changed. 2018, we elected the first slate of Democrat row offices. One of them was the county controller. In a deposition later, it came out that she was not only instructed, but her aim was to, quote, take down the sheriff. And I talked at that time to someone high up in the Democrat committee, and I said, look, I realize they don't like me and the long knives are out and so forth, but why so aggressive? And I'll never forget, he called me a big fish. And I thought that was kind of insulting, Felice. Would you like to be called a big fish?
No.
I wasn't sure what that meant, but no, I knew what it meant. He said, you're a big fish. You're next to the president's side. You're a leading vote getter in the county. Pennsylvania is important for the upcoming elections.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to do whatever they can to neuter you. And they will do whatever they can. And it started. The next few years, it was a constant barrage. First an audit of 17 years of being the sheriff. They found nothing. Turned me into the State Ethics Commission. They came down and investigated for a week, found nothing. Decided to go after our canine unit, which was funded not even with county funds. It wasn't taxpayer funds. It was funds raised outside. And wanted, they sent...
and stuff.
Huh?
Donations and whatnot.
Donations and fundraisers.
Yep.
And it was not, and the question was, did they even have the authority to do that? But here was the kick, because deputies helped in some of the fundraisers, that made the connection. And ultimately, I was on the Sebastian Gorka show. He said to me, I said, I was charged with 2 misdemeanors. I said, I'm not a felon. I don't think there's a word for misdemeanor, is there? I'm a misdemeanor, not a felon. You make that up. I put that on my T-shirt. And he said, for what? I said, for letting my deputies cook frog legs and alligator meat. And he laughed. He said, is this an April Fool's joke? I said, no, it's true. Because after all of investigation, after the audits, after taking my deputies, I mean, these are the tactics from the AG's office, taking my deputies in front of the grand jury and threatening them if they ever took comp time, they could be criminally prosecuted, which is a lie. Taking my bookkeeper in front of, subpoenaing her to go in front of the grand jury. She gave it back. She's a Delco girl. She's a Delco Italian girl. And she kept the books, and you know what she told them? She said, fine, I'm going to go tell the truth. What we did, how we raised the money, how we reimbursed the deputies when they took a trip. I accounted for every penny. Bring it on. And she said, at the end, I'm going to tell them that creep that you've had creeping around the office threatening people, I'm going to tell him to go do something terrible to himself. And she wasn't shy about it. Guess what? They canceled her subpoena.
It was probably wise.
Yeah, they canceled her subpoena because she was going to fight back. So anyway, the U.S. attorney looked. There was nothing. The ethics committee looked. But the headlines, you just said something. The process is the punishment. I had no less than 20 banner headlines. And you know what a banner is. The headline is as big as the name on the top of the paper.
Yep.
Banner headlines. Sheriff investigated. AG looking at sheriff. Sheriff charged in theft. And I had said to my lawyer, why couldn't they say theft? He said, you were charged with 2 misdemeanors, state statutes, theft of time and diversion of services. They can use the word theft.
Right.
And so the punishment was that eventually, after 5 years with a civil case, and I won't go into the details, Andy and I could talk about it maybe, but a civil case and a criminal case, and over $500,000 in legal fees over the 5 years.
Wow.
You finally say uncle.
The process is the punishment.
Uncle. It's okay. And finally, when the FBI came...
I just want to jump in real quick so people don't think I'm the one that got that $500,000.
No, I didn't call on Andy till I was broke, had taken a plea, taken a no-low contendere plea in the criminal case, which means I don't say I'm guilty. I just say, yes, I did let the deputies work and get comp time, but I didn't know I was intentionally violating a state statute. Mm-hmm. And a civil case, after a while, you're talking about a few $1,000s, and it's not worth the fight. So you finally give up. I finally, when I had Andy come in, when the FBI came to my door with a subpoena for me to go in front of the grand jury in D.C., or, and I'll let Andy explain this, turn over all correspondence with 27 people, written, speech, messages, texts, emails, social media with 27 people. And if I didn't turn that over, I had to appear in front of the grand jury. Andy, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so Bunny did, and this is, Gary, this is something that everybody, your listeners and you and everyone you speak to should know. There is a rule that I tell everyone that I come in contact with, whether it's in the capacity that Bunny was when she brought the subpoena to me, or in general. Whenever you are approached by law enforcement, especially the FBI, your answer to them should be very politely, I would like to have counsel before I speak to you. And they're charming at first if they want to be, and they can be very intimidating too. But they'll say, oh, well, you're just a witness. We just came for some information. Don't be a sucker. There's only one thing that law enforcement tells you that is actually true that you can depend on, because they're allowed to lie to you. You're not allowed to lie to them. They can lie to you as an investigative technique. The only thing they ever will tell you, and by the time they're telling you it, it's too late. Anything you say can, and here's the part that thrusts me to keep with the theme of the show, and will be used against you in a court of law. And I've asked people in law enforcement, what do they think the and will means? Because, yeah, can. If you're lying to them, sure, that should be used against you if you're misleading them. But if you're telling the truth, how will that be used against you? And the truth, and none of them will admit this, but the truth is they will twist and turn and do whatever is necessary to convict somebody once they've decided they want to do that. So Bunny did the right thing by coming to me before either speaking to them or responding to the subpoena. The subpoena is a trap. They're asking for all of your electronic communications, essentially. And I don't know about you. I'm pretty good with computers as a user in my business and for general communications. But if I had to download all of the potential places where communications, emails, and any other form, phones are even worse, texting and everything else, I don't believe I could do that thoroughly. But most people don't realize that. And they might say, oh, okay, I'll just download the phone or I'll give them copies of my email logs. That's not good enough, because if they later subpoena your entire device and download it, I promise you they're going to find hidden caches and other places on your phone where items are stored, even things you think may have been deleted years ago. And they're going to pull them up, and then you're going to get charged with obstruction of justice, or they're going to threaten you with that if you don't say what they want. So here's what we did in Bunny's case. We hired a computer forensics specialist who was a former FBI agent, and we provided that person with access to Bunny's electronic devices. They did the download. They certified it. and that's what we turned over to the government so that Bunny would not be pulled into the grand jury. And that was very protective of her. So I hope that everyone in the audience, understands that you are not obligated to speak to law enforcement without representation ever, even when they don't arrest you or don't tell you your Miranda rights. Mm-hmm. Like I said, by the time you're getting your rights, it's too late. They've already questioned you. You've already said too much, and it will be used against you if they elect to.
And I mean, what you're really getting to is the strategies they use to sort of work their way in. Take this back to the overarching strategy. They went after you because they knew that you were in a top 20 county. Mm-hmm. And when I say top 20, again, Chester County, where you're from, is one of the 20 most important counties in the country because Chester and Delaware, who's another top 20, and some people might add another one in there, but at least those two have a huge influence in the way Pennsylvania turns out. Now, in 2024, because the level of support Trump had in those counties and in Philadelphia and others, it mitigated that. But they're looking at this years ago and saying, you know what? We got to take this woman out because she's close to Trump. She's in a top 20 county. We need to flip this county. And so they didn't just stop and say, well, I don't know, how do we do this? Mailers? Should we do another lit drop? They're using, even back then, the system, the justice system, as a weapon to execute their political strategy. And we just can't lose sight of the fact that when you, again, see what happened on Tuesday, this is a war. Mm-hmm. This is a war to determine the future way that this country's run. Mm-hmm. And that war comes right down to them attacking a citizen just because, she's an elected official in a critical county.
Well, the other thing is, too, Andy, and you're right, when the agents came to my home, there was a local agent from the Newtown Square office and an agent from D.C. Mm-hmm. And I invited them in. I was on the phone, actually. I said it's either what's the religious group that comes to the door?
Jehovah's Witnesses.
I said it's either there were two men in suits. I said it's either Jehovah's Witness or the FBI to the person on the phone, and she laughed. And I said, oh, my goodness, it isn't Jehovah's Witness. It's the FBI. So I did invite them in. We sat down for a few minutes. And Andy's right. I said, I just wanted to know why they were there. And I kind of thought, okay, I know they know everything. They know the charges from the Attorney General. They know what I've been through. They know the civil suit. They know it all. And they're going to ask me questions. And I said to them, don't ask me questions. You know it all. And at a certain point, he said, well, if you talk to us, you're not under oath, but we expect the truth. And I said, we kind of ended the conversation there. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the interesting thing was when I called to get this investigator, who I knew was a former FBI agent, and talked to Andy, he said, had I turned over which I wasn't going to, turn over my computer or turn over my phone, everything would have been there. And they would have charged me with obstruction of justice. And that's why when we had the deep forensic search done and turned it in, Andy was right. It insulated me. If there was anything not there, it was with the investigator and the forensic guy, who also was former FBI, and it would have fallen on him, not me. So Andy insulated me by lawyer-client privilege, and I was insulated on the search by the FBI. And allegedly, that was the end of it. I don't know. I wasn't subpoenaed again after that.
So you get caught up in this big dragnet, this list, again, senators, representatives in the House, citizens across the country, and they put the FBI out on this mission to execute a Democrat strategy. And the FBI, of course, was willing to do it.
Sure.
I guess that was Comey at the time, probably, right at that point. And so
at the time, Gary, at the time this was happening, it was Ray.
Oh, was it
Comey
already Ray?
Was it Ray? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
it was
remember,
22.
It was Comey left during Trump's first term.
That's right. This would have been Ray.
This would have 22.
So now you've got this new guy that comes in. Yeah, and it's exactly the same as the old guy. And before Comey, it was Mueller, and they'd have been happy to do it then. And we spend a lot of time with some FBI agents, John Nance and Chris Hinkle, who've been on the show a lot. And when you hear from them, you hear a totally different story about the FBI they worked in. It is not the same as this political weapon that's been used now for many, many years to go after opponents of the globalists or the Democrats. And so, you know, I don't know what the takeaway from this is in terms of how you protect yourself going forward. If you've got the Sovietization of the FBI to the point that it's going to be used as a weapon, such that if you speak out against the sitting president or you oppose a policy and they're going to come knock at your door, we're entering a totally different realm in terms of what this country's all about. And the Constitution is basically shredded.
Well, I mean, what I guess, and I don't know, Andy, if you know this, but it seems like they are trying to change the culture of the FBI. It seems with Kash Patel, he is trying to clean things up. People have been dismissed. And I'll say at the whole DOJ. Do you have any insights on, you know, what things have changed and if we can look forward to a non-Soviet FBI?
The short answer, in my personal opinion, is no. And I want to go back and give just a drop of historical perspective. The FBI was an invention of J. Edgar Hoover. Mm-hmm. He was the first director, and he served in that role until he decided to retire. He has the dubious distinction of being the longest-serving government official in charge of an agency ever, and he stayed in office that way because he should have been called director of blackmail instead of director of the FBI. He blackmailed every single president from the time he assumed that office until he left, and, you know, it's pretty well-known fact that he did that. Despite his questionable personal life, he had no qualms about blackmailing others. So unlike most people, I do not look at the FBI as being a truly legitimate organization, certainly not the foremost investigative agency in the world. And while there was a period of time after Hoover when it seemed like it might be going in the right direction, I think it was more like a break than a change. And the culture at the FBI started with blackmail, and they're bullies. Once they're knocking on your door, they will get you if they want to get you. So they are the American secret police. It's just that they aren't trotted out in our face the way the KGB and the Stasi were in the openly communist countries.
Hey, Andy, we're up against a hard break here, but I thank you for your insights on this, and Bunny, thank you for surviving this and telling us the tale.